Thank you, everybody. My name is Mike Perlman. We're a company called System One. We're a marketing analytics and measurement company. Excited to be here today with Kamran and Pete. I think we're going to start off with a video. We have that queued up. Let's roll it. Or maybe not. Well, maybe while we're waiting for that to load up, let's have you guys introduce yourselves. So everybody kind of knows NASCAR, maybe not everybody knows Crossmedia. How is that possible? Give
I don't know.
an intro of what Crossmedia is.
Not yet. We're a 24-year-old startup, so there's still time. I'm Kamran. I'm the CEO, co-founder of Crossmedia. We're an independent media agency. We're the largest diverse-owned, full-funnel, full-service media agency on the planet, I believe, and proud agency of record for NASCAR.
And Pete Jung, I'm the Chief Marketing Officer at NASCAR, proud partner of Crossmedia. That partnership started 8 years ago, and it was a very small, narrow scope to kind of oversee some of the strategy and planning around our institutional media. We didn't literally have a paid media budget. Fast forward, 8 years later, and we have a huge kind of assignment and scope ranging from all of our growth segments work to awareness and promoting our broadcast to most of our events where we have kind of a performance component that have ticket sales KPIs.
So, Pete, why don't we start off with maybe kind of the elephant in the room, so to speak. So we're having an inclusion and diversity event. Most people probably don't think of NASCAR as the most diverse of audience bases.
I got a thick skin.
Not an insult. I guess, how do you think about the concept of diversity at NASCAR? How core is it to your strategy?
I joined NASCAR about 10 years ago, a little over 10 years ago, and I came from MasterCard, and most of my time there was working internationally. So I guess that was kind of their appeal or whatever with my experience. Oftentimes I feel like we don't talk about kind of our misses or our failures. And truthfully, I think when I first got to NASCAR, I was eager, I was the head of growth segments marketing, and I just wanted to get at it, and so we started marketing, hired an agency, created a media plan, marketing our drivers, our events. But the reality is people of color, people with maybe that came from a different background, didn't see themselves in NASCAR. And so we really paused for almost 2 years and really kind of took stock of we have to start from within our company and within the industry to build diversity. And it started with our company. I think one of the things I'm most proud of is my team, many of which colleagues are, have been there for 5 years or less, but over half are diverse colleagues, and they bring a ton of value and perspective that is new and fresh and different. But over the past 5-6 years in particular, you see team owners, competitors, pit crew members that look like the U.S. population, and that kind of earned us sort of the right to sort of market and engage diverse audiences. And I think that was really, I'm very happy to have sort of our board and owners that saw that was kind of something that we needed to establish diversity and prove a case before we start marketing.
It's really interesting that you start with the team. I think a lot of people, when they start talking about diversity, go immediately into tactics, and it sounds like you're thinking first about the team. And Kamran, I know your agency, I believe, is the largest minority-owned agency in the country, if I have it correctly. How does that background help you, go along on the journey here with Pete to bring diversity of thought and experience to NASCAR?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I didn't set out to be, a minority-owned agency. It just happened to be that way, and I'm relatively blessed, so I guess it worked out. But, I think much like the ethos at NASCAR, at least the recent ethos, you have to build diversity in as a core proposition of your business. And it has to be good for business. And it starts with representation at all levels in the company. Because if you look America and where America's headed, right? By 2040, 2045, there's going to be more non-whites in this country than there are whites. So we better get started now. Then you'll be able to help any marketer think through their growth challenges because you simply represent that point of view. And it starts with how you hire, nurture, and empower people and decision-making capabilities in your organization. And then you have to have products and services and tools and practices that ensure that you look at data a certain way, right? That you remove bias, and that you make commitments that might be above and beyond what you normally would do. And I think when you can line that up with a brand's initiatives, then there really is no separate diversity program or inclusive program. You're just doing what's right for the business. And so when your company's aligned on values, then it just sort of flows that way.
And similar to that, we used to be structured where there was a separate multicultural group within marketing. And, within the past 6 months or so, we kind of consolidated everything. We're like, no, that is part of our overall marketing, fan engagement sort of brand proposition. And you've got experts and diversity within the team that make sure that our, connections with new audiences are on point.
That makes perfect sense. And are there particular audiences that you're going after as a target market? I'd love to hear more about that. And then maybe if you guys can share a particular activation or tactic that you took recently that worked well.
Yeah. I mean, listen. One of the things that we're passionate about at NASCAR is proving that racing is for everyone, and everyone is welcome. The video the aforementioned video, it was really, I was excited to share it because it had nothing to do, or very little to do with racing. It had to do with community, it had to do with culture, it had to do with experience. Oh, there we go.
Looks like we might
And let it roll.
All
All right.
And now, the most famous words in motorsports.
Drivers, start! 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 Start!
Start your
Engine!
NASCAR unveiled the first electric race car.
What's up, what's up, what's up?
shake and bake.
That just happened.
Nice suit.
You nervous?
All right, so that was way better than what I could have explained. But to my earlier point, that that what we're selling is culture and community and experience, much less kind of racing. I think the question, Mike, was kind of one of the many projects that sort of I'm proud of, and I think that sort of demonstrates the depth and thoughtfulness of the partnership. I'd say one thing, and Kamran may have a different kind of opinion or thought, but 3 years ago we embarked on, we've done a lot of revolutionizing of our schedule, where we race, how we race, the type of event. We had our Clash, which is kind of the exhibition race that kicks off the season. We hosted it at the LA Memorial Coliseum in downtown LA. People thought we were crazy. We built a racetrack, recycled all the asphalt after we were done with it. But the way that we went to market was very different. This was all about reaching a new audience, primarily diverse. The first year, 80% of the ticket buyers were new to our database. And so we really relied on Cross to help us just understand the market, the competition, our audience segmentation, where we were kind of drawing from, and it was, very different than how we approach kind of marketing many of our other events. So.
Yeah, so an example, we have a unit in the agency we call Fabric, and it's there to ensure that we look at things like audience segments distinctly, right? So diversity and inclusion is woven into everything we do, hence the name Fabric. And so you take a market like LA, you can do a Gen Pop target analysis on fans in LA, or you look at that through the filter of African American only, you look at that through the filter of Hispanic only, you look at that as a filter of non-whites only, and you see a far different media usage map than you would if you looked at Gen Pop. It's very easy to go into a market and think you're targeting a market that is diverse, but how are you doing inclusive targeting and inclusive advertising to specific audiences in the market? They put a great product out, and we said, look, the Hispanic audience in LA in particular is keenly interested. So buying Spanish language television regionally, buying boards in Hispanic neighborhoods, very, very specifically doing a drone light show over the Mexico-Colombia game that was happening at the Coliseum from both the NASCAR clash that was happening. So really putting a ring fence around that audience and being very specific, featuring talent that's specific to the demographic, and being very holistic from the product that's on the track, literally, down to the advertising and marketing. Holistic and inclusive all the way.
It's really interesting. And how do you think about partners within an overarching strategy of inclusion and diversity? Are you out there actively thinking this particular brand or partner presents a great opportunity for this particular niche segment, or how does that come into play?
I think the partners is key to our strategy and our success, or not, to be perfectly honest. And I would look at partners pretty broad. I would look at our sponsors as partners, like Coca-Cola, the activation and partnership that we do with them, and Toyota and many others. Partners like our broadcast partners, like NBC and soon to be Amazon Prime and Warner Brothers Discovery. They bring a lot of kind of assets and expertise and kind of opportunity to the table. I think one of the things that Crossmedia has really helped us with is really, and this is such an overused word in marketing, but just genuine, real, kind of like I was going to say thoughtful, but storytelling, and it's not programmatic or it's not one point in time, but it's constant. So partners like Me Too or Blavity, they help engage prospective fans in a very kind of consistent, ongoing way, telling the stories of the people, the experience, the community of NASCAR kind of throughout the year. And this is not about impressions. This is not about what do we deliver in 2024. This is like kind of looking at the long-term sort of opportunity.
When a lot of people talk about diversity, it often goes immediately to racial or ethnic diversity, but as some of the panelists said earlier, there's other elements of diversity, one of which is geographic. And so you have, as one key competitor, F1, coming into the U.S. increasingly. Curious to hear from NASCAR's perspective, how are you thinking about expanding outside of the U.S. or building audiences outside of the U.S.?
Yeah, I mean, if I said I wasn't, a little bit, envious or maybe annoyed at F1 and their success in the US. Their timing was impeccable, honestly. They, like the Netflix show that, the first season drops in COVID and everyone was binge watching and there was a fraction of the programming. If I had $1 for every time someone said you should do a Netflix show. Season 2, we just announced of our Netflix show is launching early next year. But what they did is, F1 is very much a global kind of phenomenon. Their drivers are, often like heroes of their country. So it's not even like apples to apples. And I'm not trying to be like F1. I want to be like NASCAR, but I want to be inclusive and accessible. But where they have made kind of strides in growth domestically, we're kind of doing the opposite, where we're focusing on growth internationally. So for the first time ever, the Cup Series are, for those that don't know NASCAR well, that's kind of the top NASCAR series, probably 90% of what you hear and see is going to Mexico City in June of 2025. And that presents a huge opportunity, on the global stage, but also I think just helps reinforce our position here domestically. So, and I would expect that kind of diversity in our geography will continue as we look at 26, 7, and 8 and beyond.
This question might be best for you, Kamran. Measuring, right? So you're working with Pete here, putting in a lot of different tactics or activations. What's your approach to measuring what's working, what's not, and how to learn from that?
Well, you have to measure everything. So whether it's our brand activations, our tune-in efforts, or our ticketing efforts. So we're very performance-based on the ticketing side. We're looking at attribution and modeling to ensure that the right audiences are buying, they're incremental to the business, and we're specifically going after those younger audiences. So we're looking at that. It's interesting on the tune-in side, which is a little bit harder to gauge, right? We have done studies where we're looking at those exposed in our audience, and then those who actually tune in. And we're looking at that on a demographic basis. So we're looking at Gen Pop, we're looking at African American and Hispanic specifically, because those are the sort of two big diverse segments that we're trying to grow. And so we can see the exact conversion rate of tune-in amongst those audiences. It's a very powerful number. It's not a huge number. We're trying to grow it. Now what's interesting is our data provider has become reluctant to share this kind of sensitive information. And this is kind of going backwards in our industry, right? How will I know I'm growing these specific audiences if I can't understand how to measure those audiences? So I think we need to be very, very cognizant that while there are sensitivities in data, there's some very important aspects of what you get out of that data that we should fight for. And this isn't about profiling, this is about increasing our chances of success in reaching these audiences and converting them into actual users. And that's something we should fight for in our business.
And I would just contest every single plan, whether it's awareness, tune-in, promoting broadcast, or it's a specific event plan to maximize ticket sales. Everything is, optimized or tinkered, based on this analysis. I think, the attribution kind of modeling and research is easier, I'd say, on the kind of ticketing and conversion side of things, but we've made some nice progress, even though some step back in a few ways, but from a tune-in perspective.
I think we're running a little tight on time, so maybe we'll go with one more question, and then we'll open it up to the audience for questions. So, as you guys have been on this journey together, building an inclusive marketing strategy, what would be one key learning if you were speaking to a marketer out there or an agency working on behalf of the marketer that's starting to launch their inclusion strategy?
If NASCAR can do it, anyone can do it. Okay?
I don't know if that's an insult.
It is the highest praise because, look, you're talking to a guy who memorized the lyrics of Dukes of Hazzard when they were a kid, and yeah, right? It's a different world, yet there are cultural elements that are still ingrained into everything that we do, and NASCAR represents a swath of America that we should be proud of and should be inviting to all communities. And one of the biggest insights, we discovered, and Pete shared with us, and we discovered in our research, is there's these diverse audience who love watching, they love motorsports, they love cars, they love fast things, but they might not feel as welcome at the track. And so being able to manage the plans and the programs holistically allows us to both promote this as an inclusive sport and also put programs in place that make it welcoming to actually participate in the sport beyond just viewership.
Yeah, I kind of just build on that. I would say, really, you got to be committed for the long game, even though it's not a game. But you're not going to change something in a year or in a season. And I think you just need to really get the support of your board, your ownership, whatever, to really focus on kind of a long-term sort of journey and roadmap with definite milestones where you're showing progress, but this is, we've made a ton of progress, particularly in the last 5 years. The composition of diverse fans is exponentially greater than it was in 2019. But we have a lot of work to go, and I think 10 years ahead we'll still have a lot of work to do. So be real about like your vulnerabilities and kind of the work in it.
That's great. Why don't we open it up to the audience if there's any questions?
John,
How has your demographic, viewership, and attendance changed over this time?
So, John, a couple good kind of measures of it. When I joined NASCAR, I think the percent, this is Scarborough, so syndicated, I think the percent of fans that were multicultural was like 19%. I think it's 27%. The U.S. population is 34, 35%, something like that. I can't remember November. From a ticket buyer perspective, people, or from a brand kind of tracking study, people that are new fans claim to be interested in NASCAR within the last 3 years. More than half are diverse. From a ticket buying perspective, there's probably been a 30 to 40% increase in diverse and younger ticket buyers as well. So that kind of feeds the broader kind of syndicated, which kind of has a lagging methodology, but we're moving things in the right direction. We just have work ahead. So.
Yeah. Hi. With so many avenues to diversify your audience, how do you balance like prioritizing who to go after first, and also how do you balance creating experiences where people feel welcome and actually spending money and effort in marketing without diluting who you are as a core business?
Yeah, I first would say just lining up our product or proposition with consumer audiences. And the Hispanic and African American community, a lot of what we have to offer aligns with their kind of values and interests. They represent the biggest opportunity in terms of prospective fans. You made a great point on kind of experience. Like that's a big part of our investment in our marketing strategy, is providing experiences that are adjacent to racing. Maybe Bubba's Block Party in downtown Chicago, or maybe Daniel's Amigos. These are drivers for those that may not know much about NASCAR in Atlanta. And these are experiences for people that are new to NASCAR that might be interested, that are like, oh, okay, this is interesting. I see a driver, I see their team, I see their sponsors, I see people that look like me, I feel like I'm welcome. And then we, from kind of a data perspective, have the opportunity to kind of nurture those relationships. And I'm not going to try to sell you a ticket or tell you to watch the Talladega race on Sunday, but I am going to want you to learn more about Daniel Suarez and his story, which is amazing. So
It's all incremental, right? These new audiences are new, literally, to the sport, and they just need a reason, a nudge. They need to be targeted so that they feel seen and heard relative to the sport. So it's, people use the word balance. I think we think of this as just how we market. There is no balance. The core is core, and they're solid, but how do you invite new people in? And that's additive to the entire business.
So you're looking forward to the future of inclusion for NASCAR. What is a milestone you're looking forward to?
a milestone? I think I mentioned the event in Mexico, which I think is going to open up a ton of doors and put us on a stage, in consideration that frankly we never have been, both internationally and domestically. I think it just sends a sign that like if our highest level kind of series, our greatest kind of athletes and teams, we're going to go put on a show in a different country, in a different part of the world. Like that to me, I'm excited just to see kind of the data around like sentiment and engagement.
All right, Kamran, Pete, thank you. This was fantastic.